Alô, galerinha do YouTube! A zoeira, gente, aqui eu não sei como começar uma videoaula que eu nunca gravei antes. Ahn, Bom, na aula de ontem, eu daria o feedback sobre o peer editing e o literature review que nós fizemos na última aula. Teria um pouco de extra practice com foco na grammar e ABNT, alguns problemas que eu ainda encontrei nos literature review que eu estou lendo. E um outro tema seria sugestões sobre como apresentar o undergrad research, os seus TCCs. Então, porém, se a greve acabar a qualquer momento, se os professores receberem, as apresentações estão mantidas. Por isso que eu resolvi gravar essa videoaula. Eu vou deixar esses dois itens para a próxima aula, mas essa videoaula vai focar na apresentação dos TCCs. Então, essa videoaula é para as pessoas que ainda vão apresentar o TCC essa semana ou semana que vem. Nós não sabemos ainda como que vai ficar o calendário. Mas por via das dúvidas, né, eu já resolvi deixar esse exemplo aqui para vocês, algumas sugestões, alguns tips, enfim. So, let's start. Well, about the undergrad research presentations. Why do you have to present something that you haven't finished yet? Because it's only part of your final paper, right? You don't have the results yet. Well, in master's and PhD programs, there is a process called qualification. The qualification is a presentation of part of your research to a panel of professors who are going to make suggestions. There is one professor who's your advisor, and the other one is like an outsider who hasn't participated in your research. So this other professor may see something that you haven't seen, that your advisor hasn't seen, for example, a mistake, or this other professor may give you some suggestions on further readings, papers or books that you don't know about, and your advisor hasn't given you to read. So it's just an outsider who's going to give you some suggestions. So be prepared to be criticized. I don't mean negatively criticized. I mean be prepared to accept the suggestions that the other professor may have. So if, for example, there is a mistake and you haven't seen this mistake, this other professor may see it, and then you don't go on with this mistake for the next term, for the next semester. So that's the idea of presenting a paper that's not finished to a panel of professors. And what are you going to present? The introduction, which is the general background and your objectives. Your literature review, the theories that support your research, the thing that you have been working on the semester. Because usually the way we work, guys, if you know why this keeps appearing here, you just tell me, because I'm trying to solve this problem and I can't. Espaço insuficiente no disco dele. Anyway, I'm sorry. Well, the way you usually work is like this. In the first semester, TCC 1, you need a lot of reading. You need to understand the theories and the concepts that you're going to use to support your research. And then in the second semester, you do the analysis. It could be a data collection or only the analysis, or if your paper is a literature review itself, you're going to go deeper on that. So for this first semester, what you have to present is the theories that support your research. Methodology is very important to present at this point. How you're going to collect your data, how you're going to analyze your data. It's very important to present because if the other professor has suggestions for you, to use another methodology or to improve it, so presenting your methodology is very important at this point. If you have some partial analysis, partial results, you should present it as an example of what you're going to do next semester. But this is optional. If you don't have any, no problem. And then your references. You do not have conclusions, right? Because you haven't finished your study yet. So do not present any conclusions. Here's an example. It's based on a paper that I presented at an event I think 2 years ago. It is a comparison of students' and teachers' perceptions on vocabulary acquisition in English as a foreign language. You should introduce yourself, you know, my name is here and the name of my advisor. So you should introduce yourself and also tell the name of your advisor in the first slide. In my opinion, I think an outline is very important for your audience to understand, to have an advanced view of what you're going to present. Well, for this part, it's usually the same thing for everybody. It could be a little different. It could be because, for example, if you're presenting a literature review, you could add here all the sections of your paper. Instead of only writing theoretical framework, you could add all the sections here, you know, the parts of your literature review, the subheads of your literature review. So it could be different. This is just a suggestion for your audience to know what you're going to present. And then you start your presentation. I said I was going to present the context. It could be introduction, it could be background information, okay? So I wrote context. Well, my context is about the two approaches that are usually found in the literature about language learning, foreign language learning, and second language learning. These two approaches are implicit and explicit. There are a lot of studies that look at implicit or incidental or indirect, also called indirect learning, through contact with input, contact with the target language. And there are studies that look at explicit or direct learning through a systematic teaching of vocabulary. However, Mira says that vocabulary learning through contact with input, oh, there was a mistake here, spelling mistake, don't do that in your presentation, okay? Mira says that vocabulary learning through contact with input is the same as a gardener who plants seeds only to confirm that they will turn into flowers. He says that the question should be what to do with this input. What he means is that indirect learning is, contact with the target language for sure will lead to acquisition, but we should explore how this input is used. Okay, I read here part of the sentence. Can I read my slides? Yes, you can read your slides, but you have to explain. You cannot only read. You have to read and explain. Some people say that you cannot read slides, which is not my personal opinion, because if you're only explaining the slides, the audience sometimes doesn't know if they should read the slides or they should pay attention to you. So from my personal experience, I can say that you can read first and explain later, but you have to really explain what you're reading. It's not only reading and reading and reading. You have to read and explain. If you don't want to read the slides, it's okay, because this is usually what a lot of people who talk about how to present seminars, they say that you should not read slides. So again, there's these two opinions, you know, that you cannot read any slides, and then my question is, if you cannot read, why are the slides there? In my opinion, yes, you can read the slides, but then you have to explain it later. I mean, the slides is only a prompt for you to remember. It's a reminder for you, you know, to know what to say, and then you explain it further, right? Well, Mira's questions leads us to our research question and our main objective, which is to investigate what individuals assert that they do with the input received. We aim to explore the similarities and differences among opinions. So my main objective is to investigate what the students and teachers say that they do with the input received. When they have contact with the English language, what do they do with that to learn vocabulary? In assuming that exposure to the target language may lead to acquisition, as Mira says, we seek to understand how this input is used from the point of view of the participants. So from the point of view of the participants is very important here, because this is what is different from other studies that have already been conducted. More specifically, we aim to compare students' and teachers' perceptions on this issue. When I say points of view, I mean opinions or perceptions. They are used here interchangeably. But what concepts support, how can I define points of view or opinions or perceptions? We consider that these points of view are social, historically, culturally, and ideologically constructed, and we take this from Bakhtin. And also from Bakhtin, we use the concept of dialogism and value judgment, which means the participants' perceptions, the participants in my research, their perceptions are echoing voices that come from a history of approaches and methods in language teaching. So the discourses are dialoguing with history. And this echo is not an innocuous repetition. It is permeated with value judgments. To accomplish our objectives, the methodology we're going to use is the focus group using high school teachers and students. We hope to have approximately 40 individuals in the same classroom. Focus group is like an interview, but there's no interviewer and interviewee. It's just everybody discussing the topic freely. The interviewer acts only as a moderator of the debate. And we're going to conduct the focus groups in private schools. Guys, this is just, I made this up because I actually used another methodology for this research, but it's a little complicated. I didn't want to bring it here because this is only an example. So conducting a focus group in private school is totally made up here. I didn't do that. But anyway, I'd like to say that I don't have here, because this is only an example and I actually didn't do this. I don't know why I wrote private school here, but if you choose a context like private school, or if you choose, public school, or if you choose a book to translate or to analyze the translation, you have to explain why. So at this point here, you're explaining your methodology. You have to explain why you're using this methodology. I'm not explaining here because, again, I invented this. I didn't use private school and focus group to conduct this research. So I don't have an explanation for this. But you have to explain why you're using that methodology you're using, okay? Why you're using that book, for example, you're analyzing that translation. Why you're using, if you're collecting data at a private school, why you're using a private school, and so on, okay? Why you're using this specific context. Autocorrect, I'm sorry. And then if you're using, for example, a questionnaire, you could bring a questionnaire for the professors to analyze and give you suggestions on how to improve it. So here, for example, I made these up, okay? So I brought the questions that I supposedly I was going to ask my individuals, the participants of my research, which is not going to happen. It's just a demo, it's just an example. But anyway, if you have, for example, a questionnaire that you're going to use to collect data, so you should bring it for the professors to take a look, and if they have suggestions, for example, oh, this question, you should remove it because you're not going to have any interesting results with that, or you should add this or that question. So just for you to have suggestions on your instrument of collecting data. And finally, the references. You can use only the references cited in the presentation, or you can use all the references you're using in your paper, okay? The last slide, I suggest you use a slide like this. It's a suggestion, not like a rule. Questions, and then your name and email address, and the repetition of the title of your research. Well, I hope that helped you to prepare your slides and to be more self-confident about a presentation. And we can still interact through Google Classroom or by email if you have any questions, okay? If you have any doubts, just talk to me, your advisor, or your advisor. And É isso aí, galera. Deixe seu like, blá blá blá.